let me just also point out that over 60% of engineering doctorates are awarded to foreign students in UK and Britain, and of course this university here. And there was a time when they stayed in Britain and America. No longer the case, because of course they've now got very good incentives, and this Mr. Wang from China is a good example of what he's trying to do. He's trying to pull these people back in. And that means that we're hollowing out our own skill resource base in STEM subjects and engineering, both in Britain and in America. It's an issue. The quality cost revolution. The quality cost revolution is really something which says that we assume that the quality and therefore the returns to quality would stay in the West, and that the East would do the low-cost work. And when we started thinking that this wasn't the case, we met a lot of opposition from economists. And they said, no, can't possibly be the case. We have an advantage in quality in terms of innovation and in terms of our university system. Well, also, there's another bit to this that challenged us, because we've both been, Phil and I have both been skill formation theorists that have assumed on the German model that you needed a kind of infrastructure of culture, institutional organizations that produced high-skilled workers, as in the dual system. Well, we're in for a big shock. We went to a subsidiary of a Korean multinational outside Delhi, and when we walked into this factory, it was quietly humming. People wore white boiler suits. They just got on with their business, and this was one of the key key producers, the most successful producers of this Korean multinational in the globe. And when we walked out of that facility, we went across the road with two guys with a bike, and they had industrial wire coiled on the bike, and they were pushing it along. And it was a shanty town. And so what you get is this idea of inside out. You don't need a huge infrastructure to produce the skills now in terms of the social construction of skills, the social infrastructure of skills. You don't just need that. You just need these islands of excellence, which produce, as it was pointed out to us, an inside-out model of skill formation and indeed of production. So what this tells you is precisely that. It was only very late on when we got the technology and it became simple enough for us to understand it. So one of these jobs here, to see that what you've got behind you is actually the outsourcing centre for one of England's state banks. And underneath it, you've got Shantytown. Exactly that point about inside out. So now, this then tells you that you can get skills at the same level as you can in this country, but much cheaper overseas. But there's another element to this, which is what we've called the rise of digital Taylorism. And we got onto this because of my son, who is 6 foot, so he's a lot taller than I am. And we had a small car, and he couldn't fit in the back. His legs were too long. So I phoned my bank manager, and I say to him, hey, can I get a loan to buy a slightly larger car? And he said, yeah, but I can't give you that loan. And I thought, why not? And I said, okay, that's kind of interesting. He said, things have changed in this bank. So I said, can I come down with my tape recorder, as it was just about then, it was a digital device, and interview you about this? And he said, yeah, sure. So we made a time, and I went down to my bank manager, and I said, what's going on here? And he said, well, it's like this. He said, lots of things in this bank have changed. And I can't now give you the okay for your loan. It wasn't a huge amount, mind you, so that was the interesting point. It has to go to a credit controller. I said, okay, can you just run me through that? So he said, let me give you your file. And I thought, well, I'm not sure I really want my file, but however. So then he talks me through it, and he says, okay, the days are gone when I can give you this okay. I don't make those sorts of judgments anymore. This was a guy who was a graduate, 40 years old, had spent 15 years in the bank, and had developed this huge knowledge of the local area and of his customers. And I said, well, what do you do now? He said, I'll show you. So come around here. So I look at his computer. And what it is a whole series of scripts for selling stuff. Product, as the banks call it. And so I said, well, okay, so you're just now selling things. He said, yes. I'm basically now a salesperson. And he said, as a matter of fact, a junior with a ready smile could now do my job. And soon after, so it proved, he'd left the bank because he'd had enough. He didn't want to, his skills weren't being utilized. And a junior from CNA that closed down next door was now in his position. And it showed, actually. Okay. I said to him, who's this credit controller? What happens if I want to raise, or you want to raise on my behalf, the fact that actually I am credit worthy with this person if they turn me down? And he looked at me, and it's not the first time this has happened throughout the work that Phil Brown and I have been doing. He looked at me as though I was rather naive and sweet and said, you've got to understand that the credit controller is not a person. It's an algorithm. And so that started us on this train of this notion of digital Taylorism. Incidentally, went to Bangalore, went to another multinational bank, exactly the same discussion went on. They produced exactly the same product, as it were, for customers. So what this is about standardization. We think of, and this is the huge error, of the knowledge economy as being a reflection of new forms of economic revolution to do with the electronic revolution and IT. But the whole point of economic revolutions is that they're about standardization, because when you're in a highly competitive situation, the last thing you want to do is actually pay people for the knowledge that's in their heads. It's too expensive. So what you have to do is codify it and turn it into working knowledge. And so you have a whole series of forms of standardization of work, and once you've done that, then you can offshore it. Because without standardization, it's very difficult to offshore work, except at the very high end, actuaries, people like that. And of course, that work is now being done in India as well. So what you do is you standardize large areas of work, and then you leave the innovatory work to a small group of people. So we think there are three kinds of knowledge workers. Creators, I hate this, executioners. All we mean is they execute the work of the creators. And then there are the drones that do the digital work. And increasingly, the drive is to get more of those drones, more of these digital workers, as it were, across the world. Except for a group, that is a small group. And this is, when we went to a leading German multinational, walked into this person's office, and there the one book on his bookshelf was The War for Talent. You go to Shanghai, and you'll see exactly the same thing. The one book that's in all these HR executives' offices is The War for Talent. And they believe that there are a small group of multi or highly talented people in the world, and they're all fishing in the same pool to get these people. They're all fishing in the same pool. So hence the war for talent. What do these people do? Well, actually, they're the people that we met. And so they're urbane, they're multicultural, they're multilingual, and they're on top of the job they're doing. We went to see a German automotive manufacturer in China, and we see the HR executive for that, and we wait in the antechamber, as it were, and then this person, man, Chinese heritage, comes out, and he says, so, with a German accent, we talk in German, English, or Mandarin? And Phil and I looked at each other, and he looked at us, and he said, I think English. So these are the talented. But of course, there are many people like that, only a few actually make it. And there are really important issues here about these talented people, because when they fish in the pool, they're fishing in, so let me just, since we're at Warwick, let me say this, They're fishing in a pool in this country, which is Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, Imperial, and sometimes, if you're lucky, Warwick.